A person who gives advice about financial products is required to hold a financial services licence. Examples of some financial products include superannuation funds, managed investment schemes, some types of insurance, shares and other securities. Information about the buying and selling of real estate or how to run a business fall outside the definition of a financial product. Any advice you may be provided today is not financial, legal or tax advice and is restricted to general advice about investing in real estate. General advice, including forecasts and opinions, does not take into consideration your specific objectives, financial situation or needs. You should consider the appropriateness of the advice to your own circumstances. You should also get a copy of the product disclosure statement relevant to any financial product you are considering and review that information before investing. Any testimonials or discussions are provided voluntarily, without payment, inducement or other benefit, and are from genuine clients of OneLife. In the event that financial advice is provided, it is provided by Financial Planning Works Proprietary Limited, ACN 003 780 407, AFSL 247 180.
So good evening all and welcome to our mentoring call here. And we're here in the Varsity Lakes head office. And Sam is on the call, looking after everything. He's riding shotgun. And we have Jackie here, she's listening in. And Cade's up at Brisbane. But we have a very special guest tonight, and that's Nick Stanton. We're going to be talking about some tax issues and superannuation. And we're also going to talk about some questions that some of the people have put in, which is just opportune. And it's great when you ask questions of tax or structure, and Nick Stanton's on. So I appreciate the questions and thank you all for coming on. And welcome Western Australia, welcome Carmen, who's going to be our first cab off the rank. And welcome New Zealand and Melbourne and all of the different states. So welcome to you all. We're still in daylight saving and we're up here. It's 6 o'clock our time, 7 o'clock where Nick is now. Nick is on the call. So Nick, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can, Roy. Can you hear me okay?
Good, good. And you're in the office?
Yes, I'm only just holding my iPhone up. So, yeah, so it's, I don't have a permanent sort of thing, but you can see me okay?
Yeah, yeah. And I've got a really good thing for you, Nick. We should give it to you as a birthday present. This is the iPhone stand.
Oh, okay.
And it's just a perfect, Sam got it for me. Look at that. Is that good? It's got a little thing to it that unscrews. The whole thing, you can do amazing things. You know, it kind of comes out and becomes a selfie as well.
Okay.
Press the button and start. So I got it from Sam. So that's what you need. That way your hand doesn't get tired. It just sits there.
All right.
Beautiful. So I only got this myself recently, and Karen's already snuck it and took it away to a seminar she had the other day.
Okay.
Got a bit of that. So Nick, how's the world of taxation and the world of counting, and how you're coping with all the robots that are going to come and get us, and this automatic banking that's going to happen? Already they're sneaking in the system to transfer from the bank. You're already way ahead of this yourself. I know you're working with it. So the bank account gets used to the Telstra account and the money, the petrol account, and then automatically does the books. So it must be saving you guys a lot of the kind of drone work.
Yeah, absolutely, Roy. Like, definitely there's a change with the way we do traditional accounting now. You know, the sending you the spreadsheet or whatever. A lot of clients are either doing the model where they go online themselves to like a Xero accounting or an MYOB Live, and we can access their file and we all work off the same file. But the next level is, you know, clients or ourselves getting what's called data feeds, direct bank feeds straight into our accounting software or their accounting software. So you don't have to pre-fill that you've gone to Caltex for $83 and whatever. And what you can do with your software, you can train the software up to go, every time you see Caltex, you know that's coded immediately to petrol account, you know, for motor vehicle expenses. When you see Hertz, it's car rental. If you see, Joe Bloggs and Co., then that may be a material purchase. So it's just that repetitive nature of transactions. They're all done. And then it's a matter of just going through the report by exception where there's something slightly different, another transaction that we don't know, a payment to ABC Proprietary Limited, and we just email that to the client and say, well, these are the 5 that we don't know what's going on. And the client just replies back, oh, that was a payment for this, that was a payment for that. And, it's definitely speeding up the process. So that's definitely from an accounting point of view. But the biggest thing I think we're moving to, which is I've had all our team involved with quite a lot of staff training, is the superannuation self-managed super fund software. I'd have to put my hand up that they've been belting me around their head to evolve to this, what's called BGL online software, because I've been sticking to Handysoft, which is our tax component, and then there's a super fund component attached to it. And I'm like, I like all the software all linked together because it's all one database. But they've been going, no, they're not. They're dropping the ball with the super fund software. And then one of our guys rang them and said, oh, how do we do this? We've got a client doing this and this, and we want to change, pension to accumulation, whatever technical issue. And they turned around and said to us, this is Handysoft, saying, oh, yeah, we're not really, we're not at that level. You're probably best to go to another software provider. This was from our own accounting software, which I'm happy with their tax product, but this is the super fund product. So we immediately have gone into what's called BGL Live. And what's going to happen with BGL 360 Live is that clients eventually will be able to just log in, to get the snapshot, what their super fund balances all are with all their dividend statements, everything all flowing through, managed funds all flowing through. Instead of bringing it to the accountant, every 12 months and just getting up to date, they'll have a more real-time view of what their balances are and all that sort of stuff. So that's the future, and obviously it's more efficiently for us to process. Documentation's always up to date because it's online, and yeah, certainly we're in that sort of stage now. We're just sort of developing, merging or transferring our existing database of self-managed super funds into a new software. So that's sort of going to happen over the next 12 months, but it'll definitely be a faster processing and a more timely access for all clients. Because if you think about it now, Roy, if you're in a retail fund, you're with AMP, you can probably dial in and get your AMP balance or what it is. Well, eventually we're trying to emulate that from a self-managed super fund, that you'll be able to dial in and get a rough handle, obviously the bank account, the share values updated every day and all that sort of stuff. It won't be an exact science because, if you own a property, what's the property value going to be subject to valuation? But there's a valuation update every 12 months that they can do that. So that's sort of the future with technology, and it's good. It's just helping us to be more efficient and productive.
That's sensational. So how much does that BGL kind of 360 Live cost? What does the software cost?
It's a per user license. So basically it came down to two products, Roy. It came down to Class or BGL. And I spoke to a few accountants, and BGL's the more robust accountant style one, where it's still a traditional debits and credits, with still flashy when you go online, but it's it's got its product. Now it starts at $90 per client. So that's sort of a $90 per client to have everything, all the latest documents and everything up to date. And then if you want to add in the bank feeds, there's another, I think another $30 or $40 for bank feeds to get that in. And then if you want the managed funds or another, so there's 3 components. So you can get up to, so maximum cost is about $150 if you want the full blow and everything, or if it's a pretty basic fund and you don't need all the fancy stuff, it's $90. And that's versus Class, which is, Class has all the bells. If you log into Class, you'd go, because I immediately got smitten with Class. I looked at it and went, wow, this is the Rolls Royce, it was just absolutely everything. But when we looked at our client base, not every client needs to have foreign currency translations and all that sort of stuff. And it was $150 per client, as opposed to this one, you could build into what you want. So, because I sort of said to Class, do you have a product that's a little bit lower for some clients that don't need the full bells and whistles? And they go, no, it's $150, take it or leave it. So we sort of went, well, we'll leave that and we'll just stay with BGL, which has got probably a bigger market share from the accountants that I spoke to as well. So it's not a big cost, but if you've got 150, 200 clients, then obviously that adds up. But that's just making it more productive. Because speaking to one of the guys, I said, how much does it take when you print out everything, bind and whatever? And they go, oh, that's an hour to get, to hit the button, print it. When the job's finished, print it all out. And you think, could be a staff member, even one of the girls that you know, $100 an hour or something like that, $90 to $100 an hour, or if one of the guys is doing it, even more, because he has to keep control of the minutes and make sure everything's, you know, watertight, versus you just spend $90 with this software and you click a button and it can be done, you know. So it's just speeding up time and making them more productive instead of just collating documents. It'll sort of do it all for you.
That's fantastic. And what about the data feed software? Is that costly? How much is that?
Yeah, so data feed is basically, it comes down to per transaction, like it comes down to 10 cents, 20 cents per you know, like so if you have multiple accounts, it does, it can add up, but you know, it's a cent per whatever it is. I know it depends on the volume and all that sort of stuff. So there is a varying amount, but it's not a prohibitive amount. But to be honest, Roy, as us accountants, we absorb that cost ourselves. The client doesn't pay for it. We as accountants pay for it, because my rationale is, I think I give you the example once before, like we had a job that Sarah in the office here would spend 3 days punching in the numbers. We got data feeds in, and now it takes a half a day to review the numbers that are already in. So it's paying for itself. So it's better off for us to pay, you know, $50 a month or whatever it's going to be to have those data feeds come in, because it's making us more efficient and getting staff morale higher, because staff aren't just feeling like they're a bookkeeping service. That bookkeeping is already done, and they're adding value by actually looking at the results and trying to determine what the income and expenses are.
Yeah, that's great, Nick. And is pretty well all the banks got this data feed kind of product?
Absolutely, they're all on board. So it's just, it's even the minor ones are coming on board. So it's a matter of doing it, and it's credit card statements as well can feed through and everything. So it's a big. Well, look, you get a couple of clients that sort of go, oh, you know, I don't know about this. You know, where's my data going? Because it's basically just downloading the bank statement into our software. But you know, you get the occasional one, but it is definitely the future, because it just makes everything more efficient and easier. And a lot of jobs, we've got the data feeds, and we can prompt the client to say, hey, we've already got 90% of your information in here, as opposed to ringing up a client or emailing them saying, can you get all your bank statements together? Can you get your credit card statements together? Can you write code against it? What's happened? And we'll process it. So it's just making everything a lot faster.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Nick, I know you're always, you know, not cutting edge, because I know you're a conservative man. You always watch and make sure these things work, and you always take a little bit of extra time. But when you make the decision, it's been fantastic. So thanks for the story. All right, we're going to move on with Carmen here, and she's got a question. And Carmen, perhaps you could come on here with Nick and say hello, and maybe you know, I'm sure he knows you anyway. But I'll just, while we're getting her on, Sam. She's writing on behalf of the Country Gold Property Group, which they got together at the last Quantum Property program. And there's a couple of their members got some health issues, but the present team is Carmen and Shani and Luke and Shirin and Matt. And we're setting up a unit trust. The plan is to equal shareholders of the trust and directors of the company trustee. We would like to clarify around the project the trust undertakes. And she's got 4 questions here. Do the shareholders always contribute the same amounts? How does it work when they contribute different amounts? And what happens when a member doesn't want to participate in a transaction? And when a member is onlooker to the transaction, what is the liability and implementations? Now, we should say here that we're talking about, it appears, Nick, non-super fund in the sense of the unit trust to do the transactions as the joint ventures, but I guess super funds could invest into that. We have covered some of these things before, but good evening, Carmen. I can see you there all smiling away. How's Mr. Bow? Is he a good boy? Is he listening to all this conversation? What's happening? Can you hear us, Carmen? I can see you, but you're not moving. Maybe we've lost contact. She might not have a good internet where she is, Nick. But why don't you just go ahead and go through the question?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess the first thing is just establish the framework. Is that it is a trustee company that acts as trustee of the trust. So. Can I write on the paper here, Roy, and then look at, like, do you see? See that? Like, I don't know whether. Anyway, I'll do my scribbles
We
and
can
then.
see that, Nick. We can see that. That's a good thing. We can see that paper with your pen. That'll be good. Draw the little boxes.
Yeah. So okay, and can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. So just tell me if I go off if you can't see it properly. But basically, if you've got like the thing I always like is you have a trustee company first of all, and it acts as trustee of the unit trust. So the first thing is to establish the company, and the company has shareholders, and it also has directors. Now, normally, if let's say let's simplify it that let's say it's Carmen, Shani, and Sharon. Like, let's say it's those three groups, and
Yep.
you got Carmen over here.
So you're just off the page just a little bit, Nick. Just
Okay.
come
Shani,
down towards you a bit. There you go. You're nearly there. Nearly there. A bit further to your left.
like that.
That's it. That's it. That's perfect. We can see it there.
So Shani there, and you got let's say Sharon over there. So if you want to be even unit, if everyone's to put the same amount of money in, and the goal is to get a place for $300,000, then everyone would put in $100,000 each, and they get given what's called units. So therefore, that's like shares in a company. They got unit entitlement. So therefore, when the proceeds come back, and let's say there's $100,000 profit on this transaction, is that the capital comes. So everyone's put 100 in, and then at the end of the transaction, everything's sold. There's 400,000 back in the trust bank account. Is that the initial capital goes back, so everyone gets their initial 100,000. There's 100,000 left as well, and that would be split up a third. And this arrangement, because they've had three equal parties put money in. So whatever you put money in, that's your entitlement to it. Now, let's say they decide that Carmen goes, well, actually, I want to put in 150,000, and Charlie only wants to put in 50,000. Then the percentage changes, and the profit distribution will be determined upon who's put the money in. So that's how it plays out fairly for everyone. That whatever you put in, you get back as an income share. So you don't have to put in equal amounts, but you can obviously put in separate amounts, but then your profit shares depending on who's put the money in, and it's basically come down to a pure percentage factor or something like that. So so that's how it sort of works with contributing different amounts. People put different amounts in. When it comes to directors, obviously normally you try and keep the shareholders involved the same as the shareholders, same as the unit holders here, because ultimately, if there's a fight or if there's a disagreement, it comes down to the trustee controls what the trust does. The shareholders appoint the directors. So it's the directors that make the decision, but it's the shareholders that appoint the directors. So if you want to have control of this and keep control equivalent to what you've put in, technically you really got to have the shareholding in equal percentages to what the unit holding is, just in case there is a conflict or voting needs to be done, and it's because it's the shareholders who appoint the directors go off and make the decisions and do what they want to do. So that's basically what happens, needs to be done. If you are going for finance later and you need to go to the bank and borrow some money in the trust name, then obviously those directors involved, their financials and their credit history will be reviewed. So if they've got a checkered credit history, then the banks may look to not lend money to the trust structure because there could be one of these directors with a checkered history. So you may want to look at, while you've got control as a shareholder, when you're going for finance, you might drop one of the directors off and just have two to do it. I think, Roy, a lot of them, we've seen it where we've had, 7 different parties involved, which can be quite complex with signing loan documents and everything. So sometimes it's more convenient to appoint one or two directors just to do do all the paperwork with the banks and have good credit history and get that put through while you've still got the ultimate profitability flowing through to you. You may not have a say in it because you're not a director at the time, but you are a shareholder, so you ultimately can appoint yourself back as a director once the banking financing sort of thing goes. So does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick.
Yeah.
Carmen's, her little boy's crying, so she won't be on, but Shani is on. I just want to ask a question on behalf of them, and that is, when you have a situation where, let's say you take that number you just said, one puts in 150, the other one puts in 50, but let's say where the person just to pick a position, the one with 50, they're the finders, and they might have an agreement which, as a finder, they get a percentage for finding the property. In other words, they did some more things. My understanding is, Nick, you can have an agreement behind this, which has got no relationship to the exact amounts of money, but based on the joint venture that the agreed parties did. The capital would go back, particularly with super funds, but non-super. But the percentage could alter if you so desired, or you might say there's a special fee.
Yeah, well, you could, Roy, because in this example, you've got your 100,000 profit ready to distribute, and that would be based on who the unit holders are. But you may decide before you distribute that 100 that there's an additional expense, which is a finder's fee of 20% of the profit or whatever it happens to be. And if it was a finder's fee of 20 grand paid, then that would mean there's only $80,000 to distribute, and that would go to the unit holders then. So you can affect the distribution by paying out an expense before the profit is distributed. So that's a way to create that sort of situation.
Correct. Okay, and that handles. There's a couple of questions coming in. You've really lit up our little page here.
Yeah.
Vaughan saying, what if they're money partners that we will pay interest on, but not a percentage of the profit? So that would be another expense.
100%. That's exactly what that is. So a money partner would be that they're just wanting they don't actually technically own the asset. They're basically just they're just the bank basically getting a percentage return on their money based on that, but they may not get an absolute entitlement to the overall profit as well. What the unit be a loan or
some money partners are joint venture partners too, and they get a double hit. They get their and they get their percentage.
Yeah,
they're all part of the agreement. Now she goes on to say, what if there are members don't want to participate in a transaction? In other words, you've got a corporation, a trust, you've got 100,000 in, or 300,000 say, and 3 people put 100 in each, but only one of them wants to continue. There's no reason why just one party goes into that transaction. They're doing that transaction. The others are not involved in the transaction. That's pretty clear. But then we're talking about liability. Now, this is where that directorship issue comes in.
So if it was one where you're looking in and you didn't want to be party of this particular transaction, you could either look to resign as director, perhaps stay in as, or even resign as a shareholder of the company. I mean, shareholders nothing to do with the company. Resign as director, and that's really where the liability is, because it's going to be the trustee that's going to get attacked for doing stuff that potentially could be wrong. But then once again, you've got a trustee company to protect you as well. And if you're a unit holder, well, that's if you don't hold any units in this particular transaction because they're looking people to raise money, and you're the fourth person that said, I'm not putting any money into this, so you got no money in the game, and you're not a director, so therefore you're basically not liable for anything. So that just keeps you out of this particular transaction.
Correct. And I just want to be clear for everyone listening in, Nick's not giving legal advice here, or even really accounting advice for people who he's not doing their tax returns for, because he doesn't know all of the facts, and neither do I. So we're talking a general discussion here about some of the possibilities, and we always ask people to get independent advice on these areas. But it's pretty well a common sense kind of issue, and I think the questions are valid, and in the validation of those, the answer's fairly simple.
Yeah. But it's a good point, Roy, for someone who's a unit holder and said, I'm not participating, but they just lazily left themselves on as director of the company and something went pear-shaped, that you probably would want to, it's for the sake of lodging an ASIC form that takes 3 seconds to lodge on the system and get your name off and put it in writing to say, I'm resigning as director, so make it noted. And then you put yourself back on with the next transaction, if you want to join. So directors can come and go. It's very easy. It's just a matter of lodging a document 484 with ASIC, to come and go as you please.
Absolutely. And you could also have, if there's no borrowings, the liability becomes a lot less and stuff like that, because we're doing flipping of properties or just options on documents.
Yep.
However, there's never anything that's absolutely rock solid and safe. But the way we would normally go, Nick, is we'd have the corporation and we have individual trusts on individual transactions if we wanted to, or as you know what I do, I put a new company in completely for each transaction.
That's
because I like to keep them independent.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Shani, I hope that's valuable to you. You got any other questions on that?
No, that's it. Thank you.
That's good. Thanks so much, Shani. Now, I think Carmen had another question about business that you guys are a bit involved with, which is really about your Evolve occupational therapy. And we'll just read the question out. I'd like to ask you how to set up a private occupational therapy practice, Evolve business, currently 50-50 partnership, working part-time in the business last year, subcontracting to another private therapist while she was on maternity leave, currently not active in the business, however, I'd like to grow it over the next 3 years. We have our insurance set up through this business. She goes on to say, our intention is for Evolve business is to have multiple streams of income, including face-to-face clients, online product and mentoring and peer supervision. We'd like to know what is the best structure for this. And Sharon has set up with her SheCan as a sole trader, and will do an Excel invoice. In other words, she's doing coaching for one group, the SheCan group, and then also moving from SheCan coaching and training. Initially, she wants to run these invoices through Evolve business, and coaching is covered by the Evolve insurance and Xero, the invoicing system they've already set up. However, which is the best? Is it best to keep these separate? And do I set up a sole trading for SheCan work, or is it best to involve the system with SheCan, and will I need to get additional insurance? Now, before we answer this question, Nick, and again, we're not giving you that specific advice, but in a general sense, there's a lot of people, Nick, who are doing multiple things, coaching with us, coaching with others. They may have a personal training business. They may have even a network marketing income coming in. They may have income coming in even on property business that they've got, trading and stuff like that. And they've got a corporation, got a trust, and there's a great advantage in having this trust and being a corporation and being able to direct this money to different places. And it also, call it, muddies the waters a lot over the car that's owned by the company, and the petrol and the phone account and all of the expenses. And they're obviously got to be covered by the individual process. So when you're doing a coaching call for that company, that's really allocated to them, and coaching call for someone else, or a network marketing business. But in the end, there's a bill. It gets all, and you work out the percentages. So when we answer this question, I'd love to answer in a general sense about the advantages, and everything has advantages, there's always a disadvantage. And similar with the insurance, that's a whole other story. So I know you're not an insurance expert in any way, but from a tax point of view. So over to you, Nick.
Look, my preferred structure is having a PTY limited company as your operational business. Benefits there is, that you've got limited liability, you've got a tax rate of 27.5%. So it's, it just makes sense to operate through there and accumulate your funds and accumulate and keep the money within the company environment. But it then comes down to, well, how do you get the money out? Are you going to pay yourself as a director as a wage, or is the company going to pay tax and flow that money out through to you as a shareholder and as a dividend? So what's the most tax effective way to do that? Well, an asset protection way is then, instead of you individually holding shares in that company, you set up your own family trust that will hold shares in that company. So therefore, if anything happens to you on a personal basis and this company becomes very valuable, if you hold the shares personally, then they'll say, oh, you've got one share in XYZ company or Evolve, and that's now worth $1 million business, and you've got one share out of two, you've got 50% equity in it. We're going to sue you for $500,000. So if you've got your family trust holding it, you've just got that extra layer of protection, and then it does allow you to, pay the dividends through to the family trust, being the shareholder, and then at your discretion transfer that money or to beneficiaries that may be on a lower tax bracket than yourself. So it's just a matter of having those sort of structures, just that structure in place. And that allows, two different parties to be have that one company operating, but the family trust does the shareholding. Now, you may want to have different things, because I think they mentioned, I guess one of the issues there is, I think Sharon, if she's going to have SheCam business and wants to run it through that company, you got to ask the question, okay, is that money running through the company? Is that, and there's two shareholders involved, is that the money to be shared, or is she saying, oh, I'm running this through the company, but I need that to come straight back to me because I've personally earned it for myself. I'm just using that company as a vehicle to run the money through. Then you got to look at that sort of situation, and if it is that type of situation, you might want to look at, do you want the family trust that she has while it's got equity or owns business in the company that they're both doing everything for and generating income? For the stuff that she's doing on the side, she might have her family trust run and do have an income stream there as well. So it's just a matter of working out, whose money is what, is that money, is the intention to go, that's for the good of the business, or is it she's just using it as a convenient model because the insurances are in place in that company, so it's easy to run that money through? But, is the other shareholder going, okay, well, you're just using my company as a shell to bill 10 grand, but then really that's your 10,000. But technically I'd have an argument to say, well, I'm a shareholder, so I'm entitled to 5,000 of that 10,000 you've just billed, using my software, the insurance and everything like that. So it gets a little bit tricky if you got multi-purposes with people saying, oh, that's my side of the business and that's your side of the business. So you just want to be a bit careful with that. But that can be avoided by having a company for mutual things, and then the family trust to do your own sort of, perhaps instead of a sole trader, have the SheCan sort of stuff through that family trust, if that wants to be your own individual type scenario.
Yeah, there's a can of worms there, perhaps, but in the sense it could be made very simple and just basically an agreement. I know with Kate and I, we have many businesses, many activities, many trusts, and we just do a very simple 50-50 thing. So we pay expenses out, we do various things, but there's transactions he does, transactions I do. Everything can be done by an agreement.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like a super fund, Nick, with 4 different members. If you've got a $4,000 audit fee and there's 4 different members, then it's only $1,000 each. If you've got one member and he's got his super fund, that's 4,000 for that person. Then another one gets his one, and that's another 4,000. It's costly. So it's always about trust. It's about agreements. It's about being clear. It's about getting all that done up front. I think the question's about that. I like, when these two guys work together, and just I'll put my bit in on this. They're very good friends. They work together. And I say everyone likes to remain friends, and we hope when one day when this finishes, they'll still be friends. But let's work out that they're not friends. They become bitter enemies. You write the agreement before you start as if you are friends, and you're fair with everything, and then you abide by the agreement. But you don't go into business then try and figure out an agreement after you're not friends. That's very hard.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Nick, we've been in business how many years?
28 years.
How many arguments have we had, Nick?
Not many at all.
I can't think of any.
No. No, I can't think of any. No.
And if there's ever a discussion, ever about anything, it's always about a bit of money or something.
Yeah, that's right. That's sort of I think it was like when you were our landlord, like a landlord or something like that. But we got around that where we became joint landlords of our, we set up a trust and we rented off ourselves. But before, when I first joined, I was, it was a serviced office environment, and I was sort of the landlord sort of thing. And obviously being a tight-ass accountant, I was trying to scrape every penny, and, and you being a landlord, you were trying to maximise your return on your property. So,
correct.
So we got around that by buying a property together.
And the way we solved it, we bought a property together, $1 million, 100% finance.
Yes.
No other security from Commonwealth Bank. And Vegan said he'd never be able to do that, and I've never let him forget that. I remind every program that that's what happened.
Yes, correct.
And it's been good. So and agreements. It always, all success. All unhappinesses are about lack of success. And if someone's broken up or something's happening and they feel they're being abused or taken advantage of, but if there's plenty of money, there's never any problem, really. Yep. Well, Nick, I think that's pretty well covering this. And I've noticed quite a few statements here. But Sharon, you happy with that? With that, you got some guidelines there.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good. And thanks so much for coming on, and thanks for the questions. All right. Now, Nick, they were pretty well the ones that related to this. We've got some questions now in relation to the property options and some other transactions. I think I can deal with that, with those nothing to do with you. So is there anything else you wanted to give us, any other little clues on anything happening?
There's just one other question there, Roy. I know just a yes, no. Is it legal in New South Wales to purchase a property under a company name and a trust fund for asset? Well, yes, it is. You're perfect. I mean, the fundamental rule of tax is that you have the right to protect your assets. And what the clever people end of town are doing is that you create a trust. And because, rewind it back, like if the ATO thinks that you're setting up a structure to avoid or minimise tax and that's the sole purpose, they'll go, oh, that's division, that's part 4A, we're going to knock that back because you're just trying to avoid tax. But what you're doing is you're saying, no, I'm structuring my affairs to protect my assets. And as a side benefit, yes, I do have a trust structure and that is allowing me to distribute to my beneficiaries, but this is all under the banner of full asset protection. So that question is there. Absolutely, you're entitled to have a trust or even a company own assets for asset protection. And if you get a tax benefit, well, great. But the fundamental reason is we're doing it for asset protection, and we also get a tax benefit. You never ever say to the tax man, "Oh, I just set that up because my accountant told me I'd be able to reduce my tax dramatically, and that's the only reason I did it." You know, you got to have some sort of commercial fundamental reason apart from trying to reduce your tax.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on. I know you're a busy man.
Yep.
Put time aside and stayed back, and I'm very grateful for all those people coming up to our Life Magic. Nick's going to be up there on Friday. He's even rearranging things because he's got a wedding on with one of his staff members on the Saturday. So we especially got him coming in and going out. I appreciate you putting the time aside for us, as you always have done, for that, because it's always good seeing your happy face up there, Nick.
Right. Excellent. Thanks, Roy.
Right. Take care. My love to your wife and kids, and
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Beautiful. So everyone, Nick Stanton, the managing partner of Financial Management Works, and he's the man. He's the one that came up with all this knowledge, this information that's helped us all the way through these last 28 years. Pretty amazing guy. And most of you know him and/or Vegan, and they're really there to serve and help, and always got the latest technology, the latest thing that's going on. All right, so let's move on. As soon as Cade's on, Sam, if you can let me know. I can't see him there, but let me know when he gets there. Now, I want to talk to Nadia if I could. So if Nadia wants to come on, Nadia's got a question here. If I sell my unit in Bundaberg and have 50,000 to invest in buy and hold commercial property, what should I do if I can get an investment loan again? My understanding is that the lenders are a bit tighter on their lending discretion. How would I do this, and what would be the best plan? One of my friends is looking to invest in commercial property as well, so perhaps we could joint venture with her. How would that work? Well, what a great question here. Now, the answer is always depends. Hey, Nadia, how are you? You're in the darkness there, I can see.
Yes, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I can
Just very
turn
spooky.
the light on. Do you want me to turn the light on? Hang on.
Yeah, because you've got a beautiful, beautiful face, so it's lovely to see your beautiful face, not just hiding in the dark. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nadia, it's a great question, and it's always a great little squirrely thing, because squirrels always like to know, if I collect these nuts, where am I going to put the other nuts? You know, they always like to know that before they even get the first lot of nuts. And you know, the answer's pretty simple in one sense, and that is depends. And what it depends on is what do you get. So the market is a bit tight, and it's always been tight. The banks lend based on what they want to do and what's good for them, not for you. However, banks are income lenders, not asset lenders, as you know. And so they're looking for a good horse to bet on with a good jockey, basically. And what the banks will lend, when you show them a commercial property, let's say a 500,000 strata unit with Nick Stanton as the tenant, an accountant who's been in business for many, many years and has a 5-year lease with a 5-year option to lease, and he gives his personal guarantee, which Nick has done on our lease. A lender's pretty happy with that as far as security goes for the tenant to pay the rent. They're not looking at you paying the rent, they're looking at the tenant to pay the rent. And let's say it's a $500,000 property, and let's say it's paying $50,000 a year or $1,000 a week. That's a 10% net yield. Now, if the bank was going to lend on that, and they were going to lend, let's just pick a number, 70% of that 500,000. 70% loan is $350,000. And just make the math easy for me, 5% interest on 350,000 is about $17,500 out of my head. Let's make it 20 grand just to round my number off to make it easy, but that's $400 a week. So $400 a week is the mortgage cost. Your rental is $1,000 a week net. Can you see how excited they are to lend to you? Mm-hmm. Particularly if they've got a guarantee from the purchase from the tenant. The tenant owns a house. Nick owns a number of houses, and he owns the practice with me and Vegan. And there's an escalation clause inbuilt into that lease of a 4% rise every year. So even if the interest rate went up, the rate would go up. So what we're really presenting is not you, we're presenting a transaction. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, banks have got hundreds of billions of dollars and they want to lend it. And they want to lend it to good horses and good things. So do you think that would be a good lend to you in Melbourne or in Sydney or in Brisbane, downtown commercial or, within good area? Or should they lend on a mining property up at the back of Burke somewhere on the price of coal and price of iron ore or whatever, on a residential, which they may get a tenant, may not? Can you see? Mm-hmm. So they're going to look at this transaction with sharp eyes. They're going to look at the postcode. They're going to look at the transaction. They're going to also look at what you bought it for. When you can show them you bought it under the market, they're even going to be more excited. So in terms of the other question you had here in relation to your friend, there's just something that I do, and I've got a guy who's going to be doing internet marketing process on Facebook and stuff like that, and he's been highly recommended to us, and he wants to put our marketing program together. He's been working with another guy that we worked with for some years, and I said, that's great, we'd like to do that with him, but I've got one condition. You need to come up to the program. And he says, oh, I can't make it, I'm busy. I said, well, that's okay, we'll start next year. And all of a sudden, he's now on a plane and coming, and he's there. And he's in fact bringing not only him, he's bringing his wife and 6 children as well. So it's amazing when people want to do something with you that they'll do that. So he's going to be on, and we're going to talk with him, and he's going to present what he does and how he does it, and we're going to be working with him. However, the only people I work with are people who are graduates, because I want to be really clear about trust, about understanding commitment, understanding agreements and the power of agreements, not changing their mind every hour and on the hour or whatever, or something better shows up or something. And what we were talking about before, Nadia, was, like how people are. And Nick Stanton, 28 years ago, did my program. He subsequently did it a number of times. So is Vegan. So does a number of their staff. In fact, the girl that's getting married did the program when she joined us. And that was about 10 years ago or something, 15 years ago. So that's the only thing I would say. I want like-minded people who understand the agreements and what we're doing. The second thing I would say is you need to have an agreement written about what happens when you review the transaction. And I like to review them every 5 years. And the agreement should have something like, we covered this in our program, as you probably know, the advanced ones. After 5 years, we review. We may sell the property, we may continue with the property. You may buy me out, I may buy you out. If you want to buy me out, we'll get it valued and it'll be a fair price. And you can offer it, I've got 30 days to consider it. And if I don't consider it, you can offer it to somebody else. And if you change the price, you've got to bring it back to me at the new price, so I get 30 days to consider it. And I would do the same with you. In other words, you have an agreement that's fair, caring, and understood. And that's what, so when you say, how would it work? There's a lot in this. That's why we're having this conversation. But I would start with her, if you're a serious player with her, to get her come down to Life Magic. You've got some special tickets. You can get her as one of your dream team members. And she can come for food and accommodation for either the month of November or January. So, that would be something, that you may want to consider. And I would enlighten her about the loans and the agreements and when a loan's on a property like this, there's a thing called, and again, we're not giving you advice, but there's a thing called the loan is signed by both parties, and it's joint and several are the words that the banks use. And you're in the financial industry, and I know you've got lawyers with you around there. But do you understand what joint and several means?
Not 100%, but I'm guessing it means. Actually, no, I'm not really sure. I can't explain it. No, I'm not really sure what it means.
Okay.
I've heard it a lot, but I don't actually know what it means.
I'm not a lawyer, but after 50 years of this, I've seen so many documents and been involved in so many things. My understanding is it means that if you and I did this deal, that we're jointly responsible and we're severally responsible. In other words, if something goes wrong, the bank's going to can go after either of us or one of us. And they'll go to the one that they think is the strongest.
Mm.
Now, my experience is they usually go after me in most cases. However, touch wood, I've never had a problem with this, but that's what the document says. I'm okay with it, by the way. It doesn't cause me any issue. And pretty well all documents say that. But these are the things you need to know about when going in together on a transaction. Now, there's a number of structural things you can do, and Nick's gone now, but you can have a joint venture document, a joint venture matter, which is a corporation trust or something on the transaction, the commercial property, and you can have your document up here and she can have her document up there, separate corporations, and she can enter into her funding arrangement and you can enter into your funding arrangement. In other words, you might have a redraw on a property, or she's got a super fund or whatever, and this money can come in, and it's not joint and several as far as that's concerned, it's individual. Mm-hmm. You follow? Mm-hmm. So I have a lot of creative ideas of how to structure things, and what I tend to do is not spend too much time on it prior to the transaction, but when they find the transaction, we take it under option, we get an agreement, we start looking at the finance, look at the possibilities, and then I usually structure it depending on who the people are. Same as we do with super funds and stuff like that. But these are just conversations at this point, and it's good to kind of just get an idea of what's going on. But I hope that's been helpful. Mm-hmm. Is that helpful?
Yep.
Thanks for coming on, Nadia. It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much. And
thanks.
And everything's moving along, and you're doing some great things with your super fund, and slowly, surely, step by step, it's all coming together. You've done an amazing job over the last 3 months. Things have certainly changed a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Been a lot of learning. You've done well, and you're a great researcher. Thank you.
Thanks, Roy.
All right, now we've got Cade on the call here, so welcome, Cade. And I want to talk a little bit about this. I think I'll deal with Shani's property first, Cade, if that's okay, because it's pretty simple. The other one's got a bit more work to it with James, and James is from Tasmania, and I want to make sure we do that one. Quite a complex matter. But if we can deal with Shani and Luke, if you're there, Shani, you can come on, of course, and Kate, please come on. And we're talking here about further to the house being under contract. We want to discuss with Roy what's the best to do with our money post-settlement. There's about $105,000. If there's anything with Praedium that we can do, invest into. Big question we have, the call is what is a probability loan? Inverted commas, a probability loan. And if it is, does this guarantee the buyer's funds? Find below the Word document with current situation was placed on the residence. It says that we purchased a house in an unloved condition, and over the 12 months we've painted it and the whole house, recarpeted, put new blinds in, 2 of the 3 bedrooms and landscape both the front and rear of the house. Cost us about $10,000. Now plan for the next 5 years to be in this house. However, with Roy's observations and the seller's market now, we decided to put the property on the market. It's under contract with a lady who sold her current property, and it's an unconditional contract with settlement on the 14th of December. So congratulations, guys, well done. However, the condition of our property was pending the building of the pest inspection and special conditions with finance. The buyers informed our agent they have a probability loan, which means she is guaranteed finance. It has been explained to us that due to her property being sufficiently of higher value, that is $590,000, than our buying property at $392,000, so there's a couple of $100,000 different. Her property is being sold $200,000 more than the one she's buying. The bank won't hesitate to give her finance. That's what the agent's saying. The conditions of the contract are valid until the 9th of February. The probability loan is something that our agent has never heard of and something that we can't find information on or even research it. Imagine Google not knowing this. And Google knows everything. So I asked when this came through late tonight, when I heard about it anyway, I said, and Amanda rang and I said, just give me the clause in the contract. Just give me a copy. And Shani went to ring the agent and ring the lawyer, but they've all gone home, so we didn't get that. But that clause in the contract is a very important one. So Luke, who we got there? That's that little girl. She keeps getting bigger. Have you noticed how much she's grown?
Yes, we got Hallie here.
Yeah, and Hallie, you can't go back now. You're out of mummy. That's it. It's all over. There's no fitting back in there anymore. You're too big, girl. No room.
Mm-hmm.
You're eating. Look how big she is.
Yes, very big.
She's grown like there's no tomorrow. Look at her looking about the place. She's a beauty. All right. Now, I have an idea what a probability loan is, but I'm going to ask Mr. Cade to come on and talk about probability loans. And if you want to, you can just pass the ball back to me, Cade. It's up to you. He's either gone to the toilet or he's unmuting himself. He must be in the toilet. So he appears not to be there. I did see him on the call a minute ago. He might have been even out of the Gmail. My understanding is that, and I'd love to have seen the document, but I'm going to guess. And I'm going to guess is that the bank will probably lend.
Yeah.
Now, what a silly statement to make, probably lend. What a stupid statement. There's no at law meaning anything. I want everyone to understand there are 4 different ways that a property can be dealt with. You know, when you hear a person, Shani, they say, my property is sold. And I want everyone to write this down. What does sold mean? Now, we've got a real estate agent here in the room that puts a sold sign under there. And it's a very common language. Well, the truth is there's about 4 different sections. There's a deposit, or it's under offer, and that is nothing. It's just an indication that someone's interested, but the agent might say it's sold. Second thing is they're entered into a contract conditional to certain things: conditional finance, conditional to a PES report, condition to a probability loan. That's not sold either. The day that the property becomes unconditional with an exchange of contracts, that's the day we call it sold. And the real name is not sold, it's called exchange unconditional. That's what you're really looking for. And then the 4th area is settlement. In other words, you've got your money, they've got the house, it's settled, the bank was paid out, whatever. And that's, if you want to really know, that's when the house was sold. That's called settlement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agents don't talk this language, but they're the 4 different spaces that we're talking. So it's a bit difficult to read this, because the way I read it says this is unconditional with
Oh, so that's her house. Her property went to unconditional the day that she put an offer on our house.
Okay.
So she definitely sold for
All
that
right.
figure. And then, yeah, so we signed the contract today. And so there's the subject to obviously the pest and building inspection, and then also a special condition for finance, and that, the deposit, because she doesn't have money to put the deposit on. So that's through the bank guarantee, I believe. And then, yeah, the solicitor actually had no idea about this probability loan. That's how the funds were coming in. It was the agent that has mentioned this to us. And we just thought, oh, can we be confident that it's actually going to go through, or what's happening? Because the agent isn't confident.
Yeah, well, he's unsure, and he's probably a squirrel and doesn't know. When they don't know, they get very, because they're only interested in their commission when all's said and done. But from your perspective, you need to know, according to December, you need to know where you're moving to. You need to be able to get that. So that's very important. And these conditions are through to the 9th of November. Now, I'm thinking that, you know, in the general sense of things, it's a safe situation. And the 9th of November gives you more than a month to get yourself organised. And I might add that as the vendor, you've got rights to not necessarily have to move out on a specific date. That's just their indication. They've got to give you notice to vacate, and just like you can give them notice to complete. And although they work on the dates can move a little bit, so don't be hung on the dry that you've got to be a homeless person or something. But what you want to do, and I would explain to them that whatever suits you, that until that deal becomes unconditional, you don't have a sale. Now, the fact that they've unconditional on their house at 590, they're just checking it out. But we don't know what the mortgage on that property is. That mortgage could be.
I believe it's still quite high from.
Yeah. So she's downsizing, and you don't know whether she got good credit, bad credit, or anything else. So her lawyers advised her very carefully, don't commit to this until you know that you've got in writing from the bank what the deal is. So that's where we are. And, you know, you just got to play that out. But I would get your lawyer to send me the copy of that probability loan. It'll be a 1 clause, be interesting, and I'd like to have a look at it. But that's what I suspect it is. And I would just treat it like an overall position that the transaction is conditional right now, subject to those things, and all the things, and then it'll come to pass. And I wouldn't worry about the 9th of November. This could happen well before that date. So if it, you know, and it can, and they might even ask, and Kate's back on the call now. Kate often asks for extensions regularly, and that goes on. That's one of his negotiation skills. So, you know, it is a very flexible thing. And unfortunately, vendors and purchasers don't have the final say on everything. But there will be a point when, if you want it sold, you've got to deal with this. Otherwise, you get another buyer.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Thank you.
that's great. And just, we'll talk to you, I think, when it gets closer to the transaction, when that unconditional thing is happening. And
Yep.
I'll be talking to you about getting your money, getting it working hard so you don't miss a beat.
Yeah. Awesome.
And it's great to see, and I'm really pleased for you because I think you've moved yourself out of a market that's going nowhere. You're going to get a good return on your money that you're doing. But the other big thing is you'll be able to cut your costs and start looking at the various transactions. And normally a person like you, if you can find a property that you'd like to do up or like to flick or something, a year's option with a year's lease with a year's option to lease, or a year's lease with an option to purchase. There's lots of different ways you could do this. And I'll talk to you more about this as we get closer to it. I wouldn't be too, in this particular case, jammed up saying, oh, I can't find the one with all these conditions yet. Even if you just rent something that you're happy with and rent something that's nice, that you're going to be comfortable with. Not something, don't compromise, because I can assure you, I always look at your money, 392,000, call it 400 for sake of a number, use 10%, it's 40,000 a year. That's what it costs. That's $800 a week. That's technically what you're paying for that house that you're living in, $800 a week. And what that's made up of is the cost of money and the opportunity cost of the money you're not using, inclusive of rates, taxes, and stuff like that. And no one does the math that I do, but that's how I look at it. In other words, your cash can earn 10%. We've already discussed that. Your borrowings with rates, taxes, there's depreciation going on with a house. So unless that house is going up at $800 a week or $40,000 a year, you're losing money. So you paying $400 a week, $500 a week, everything under $800 a week, you're ahead. Does that make sense?
Cool.
I'm not going to suggest you spend crazy money, but you've got a beautiful house for $500 a week.
Yeah, absolutely. God, yeah.
So I'd even look at it, if you found a new one that someone's bought as an investment, do that. Cool. Make sure you're comfortable, because happy wife Luke is a happy life. Okay.
Yes, that is right.
And you got money to work and you've got it doing things, but I'm sure you're going to find properties. You'll be good negotiators, $450 a week, whatever. But if we could get you to get one with a rental purchase plan, in other words, an option to purchase the property, a flick, even an older house that you could do up, a house that has a big backyard that we could put a granny flat in the back, all of these could be real possibilities.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. Awesome.
So, Mr. Cade, do you want to add anything to this conversation? We're trying to get you on the call. Did we lose you on power, or did we lose you on the internet?
Nothing to add to this one, Roy.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks, Shani. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks for the little one to come and do her little cameo appearance. Good job.
Thank you.
See ya.
Good. So, Kate, we've got this one here with James, and I believe he's still on. There he is, from Tasmania, and it's a good story. Before we get on to that, do you want to talk a little bit about what you've been doing this last week or so? I know you were talking at the office about some of the graphs and some of the things you're looking at for the market. I know you're dealing with some very high people placed in the government about what, and some of the different real estate groups that are talking about different changes that have happened. Do you want to just share some of your wisdom?
Sure. So, like most weeks in the industry, there's been events that have happened that have been quite substantial to affecting the market and the local economy. The big one that's happened in the last 7 days, Roy, is the city of Ipswich, which is very local to where we live and operate up here in Queensland. However, for all you guys listening, take note of this, because this happens in every city, in every state in the country. Things change, and they change dramatically and quickly. We have a great market. Ipswich is known as the fastest growing city in Queensland. Median house prices are cheap, around $420,000 at the moment, which is very affordable for this country. And things have been going particularly well with the volume of sales. And one of the key kind of products that people have been selling here in Queensland is what's known as dual key dwellings. And basically,
We just lost you, Cade. Sorry, mate. We can't hear you. You've muted yourself.
okay, that's the granny flat kind of style of dwelling that, Roy, you often speak about, where you would join the granny flat to the house and you get two incomes. And the government has, the state government has been running the local council of Ipswich for reasons of sacking the council due to them not doing their job properly. And the state government has made a decision that they're going to stop these dual key style dwellings. And the reason it's such a major impact in the market is it would be, as a guess, 30-40% of the entire brand new sales market of the city would be dual key dwellings, which means that volumes of land sales are going to drop, constructions are going to drop. And basically they brought it in. They didn't give any kind of notice that this is going to happen. And they said it's from this day onwards, being last Friday. So there's building companies out there that rely on this kind of product as their core business. And 90% of their company could be built upon building and constructing dual key dwellings. There's marketing groups that sell dual key dwellings just in this city. And there's a supply of land coming through the system, which has a lead time via developers to go to the market, which is also going to be affected quite substantially. So very big shake up to the market, if you will. It's amazing how a change in law and legislation can just happen overnight and what an effect it can have. Luckily for Palladium, it seems like it's not going to affect our current land that we own, as we'd already been dealing with the approvals of the plans on all of our blocks of land prior to this legislation changing.
Absolutely. Kate, you were very proactive with this, and you knew there was some rumblings about this, and I remember you got all of our projects paid for and dealt with prior to the event happening, and they're all approved on our major projects. So although the rumblings were there, you acted on it and paid for all the designs. So what that's done is uplift all our properties, because we've got approvals now, firstly, that you couldn't get, but secondly, they also brought in infrastructure charges of over $20,000 per property to even do it. So you've had a double whammy there. You've saved the infrastructure charges and you've got the approval. So I just want everyone to understand just the extent of Cade's wisdom here and being proactive. Not that, he can guarantee being that clever or everything, but it makes a massive, massive difference when you're doing things like this and getting into it and getting that plan underway. Massive difference. So thanks again, Cade, just to honour you in this.
Thanks, Roy.
All right, now, maybe we're mindful of our time tonight, and we've got a big matter on, but I think the Thursday week, next time we're on, I would love you to go through some of the stats, Cade, that you showed me on last, I think it was last Tuesday night or something, whenever it was, on some of the reporting of what's going on in the marketplace, where the space is, what's going on, where the tightness is, where the opportunities are. It's Australia-wide, and it's very, very good to see how you look at everything, where the expansion is, for people to know where the markets are, what's going on, and where those opportunities are going to happen. Now, we trade property, so we're not looking for growth and stuff, but it's interesting where demand comes in. And so maybe we keep them waiting anxiously to know this one. Oh, we got a lot of thunder there. And be able to put that on. Is that okay with you if we do that the following week?
Sounds good.
I think that'd be fun. I hope everyone would like to do that. I'm just looking up the next date, which we must be in December. Yeah, December the Thursday, the 15th after. Sorry, November the 15th after Life Magic, which is the first of the month, and there's another one on the 29th. So it'll be on the 15th. We can do it then, Kate. That'd be great. All right, let's get James on, and Kate, I'd like you to handle this one. It's quite a complex matter, and I know you've read the notes. James, you've grown a big beard. Must be flying that plane of yours. How's that plane of yours? Have you got it launched?
No, not yet, Roy, not yet. I'm getting there.
It's a work of love, isn't it?
Yeah, work of love, yeah, it's a journey.
Labour of love.
Yep.
Just for everyone, just to know, I went down and saw James and Mary, and I was so taken by James's property, a beautiful, beautiful property. And lo and behold, in the shed, he's building a plane. And that's pretty amazing. And I think he's been on it for a few years. But when I saw it, the wings were going on, and the fuselage was all done, and he's done all the little, what they call, the special rivets and things like that. And just so you know, James, Cade's dad, who passed away a few years ago, was a pilot, and Cade, when he was 14 or 15 years old, his father came to school and said, "Son, get in the car, come on." And he just took him out of the school, took him to the airport, got him in a plane and flew down to somewhere or other, and I think down to Melbourne or some Wagga or something. And he's 14 years old and he's flying the plane. And he's been in planes all his life with his dad, and bikes and you name it. Completely illegal, of course, but it never stopped Cade. And his father was a brilliant man. In fact, I saw a model of the plane that he built and done. So it's interesting, Cade. You've got a man on this that's done this, and I think it's amazing. I think it's just it's a great thing to do. How do you feel about your plane, James?
Oh, pretty good. So I've been diverted. My interest's been diverted a little bit. I went and bought myself a yacht, so that's sort of taken a bit of time off things. But yeah, I've just got to get on with the plane and finish the instruments and things like that. So it's very close.
That's good.
Yeah.
And how's Mary? I know she's been doing her development, and I got a chance. So I stayed in Mary's place. It was a bed and breakfast, and we spent some time down there. That's a big project, another big project down there in Hobart. And then since something to that time, they got married and they've got a house together and all that. So that's all been good.
Oh, we never got married. Haven't bothered about that sort of stuff at this stage in our life. No, marriage is going really well, and her development's going well. Where you would have looked at the window is going to become about 3 or 4 story apartment. So she's getting within months of getting the pick and shovel out in that one. So going really well.
Well, I often think about you guys, and I tell her when you see her, for me, to send me a photo or two, or just the plans or whatever the current stuff, because we back and forth. There was a lot of work going on, all the different possibilities, the access driveway, the Godfreys, the people who were renting the place, and all of the things that were going on. But great building, great bones and great style. So send my love to her. But Kate, why don't you take this over and go through this, and I'll sit and watch.
Sure. So yeah, welcome, James. James, would you just tell me, this property, the only information I seem to have on it is a title search, folio plan. Was there anything else that you had sent through for this call other than the feasibility?
Yeah, I sent a feasibility. What I want to do is get control of these properties and then do the DA site and then sell that onto a developer, contractor. So I did a feasibility as if I was putting
Okay,
myself.
if I can just stop you there, sorry. What we want to make sure is that we can just let everybody who's watching this call understand what it is that you're looking at and what it is that you want to do. So we'll just need to bring the property up first so that everyone else can see it. So Sam, if you can just bring up the black and white image that James has sent through. So as he explains this, we can all understand what it is that he's looking to do. This is the project, right, James?
That's correct, yep.
Great. So why don't you just tell us very briefly, what is this property?
Okay. Lot 4, which is the one at the bottom, is for sale, and I'm currently in discussions about getting an option on that, which they said they'll give it to me. Just a few little minor points to sort out. And Lot 3, 2 and 1 are very long blocks. They have a house at the front where the numbers are. The rest is just bush, so it's of no use to the owners. But what I want to do is get options on those 3 blocks, and if they all agree and we get a development approval to join the lot together and do a subdivision on it, then I'll buy the back half off them, and it'll be all resurveyed into Lot 4. But that 1, 2 and 3, as I said, are not for sale, but I'm going to see the owners and try and talk them into letting me buy the back half off them, which is of no use to them whatsoever. But I can get access to those ones through Lot 4. I need Lot 4 to be able to get access to them off the public road.
Okay. And Lot 5, what are you doing with Lot 5? Is that just going to stay sitting in the middle?
Well, that Lot 5 is for sale. I want a bit more for that, but we'll probably end up joining that in as well.
Okay.
Because it makes sense that it would tidy things up a hell of a lot and give me another 1,000 square metres of building space. Lot 5 and Lot 4 have active land slip on probably half of them, a bit more, and the rest is just general land slip. So I just have to do geotech reports to get permission to put driveways across 4, etc. But even then, I will only be able to build on about 1,000 metres of Lot 5 and about 1,000 metres of Lot 4.
Okay, let's keep this simple and take a step back before we go into the challenges of the site. Let's just make sure that we're all clear on what is the intention. So your intention is to acquire Lot 4, be it under an option or a purchase, and also get a development approval over Lots 1, 2 and 3 to subdivide off the land at the rear, creating another 3 lots that you also want to acquire. Is that right?
Yep.
So you'll get a minimum of 4 lots there, and then potentially part of Lot 5 as well.
Yeah, I'll probably have to take all of Lot 5.
All of Lot 5. Okay, so you end up with 5 lots.
Yeah, Lot 5 is vacant. Lot 4 is vacant. They're both just bush blocks.
Okay. All
No
right.
build.
So we're going to get 5 titles, and we're going to get we're going to get a big parcel of land without any houses on it as such. We're going to need to do some work to these blocks. And what's your intention? What are you selling here? Once you acquire the land, what's then the end use? What's the end property product?
Don't actually want to acquire the land. I want to have an option over it and then pass that option on or sell it, which is a question I asked Roy how to do that to avoid all his sales tax and all that sort of stuff. And do all the development application and the geotech survey work, which has involved a lot of work in this particular instance, and getting all the approvals for all the authorities, sewer, power and all that sort of stuff. So get it set up so a developer can just come in, go straight through to his building process.
Okay. So just pretend I am the purchaser of this property. You do acquire this site under an option.
Yep.
And that you want to sell it to a developer, and just pretend that I am that developer. What am I going to do with this project that you're selling to me? Am I going to sell off 5 house blocks as house and land packages, or am I going to build on these blocks some townhouses, or what is it that you're doing with this 5 titles of land and passing on to a developer?
Well, they would all be, according to my surveyor, they would all be put into the one title, probably number 4. So they all become one title, and the whole lot will be strata after that.
Strata what?
Strata title.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get to here is somebody is going to need to buy the product, and it might be a developer that you're looking to sell to. Though the developer is going to need to do something with this property and sell it to an end user. For example, if it's all put into one title, there would be 6 townhouses, as an example, built on this property. So what I'm wondering is, what is the end use of a residential person living in dwellings on this site? Is it going to be house and land like you can see across the road there, or what is the idea?
They would just become your typical suburban house. You probably would not sell them as house and land package. You would probably just sell them as houses, individual houses with strata title to them.
Okay, and how many houses does your surveyor tell you can put on this project?
Well, we think we can, if we get everything we want, we can get around about 6,000 to 7,000 square metres. The minimal size in this particular zoning is 375 square metres, but you need room for driveways and all that sort of stuff. Roadways, I mean. So we're visiting around about 10 to 12 townhouses, 2 to 4 bedroom townhouses. But it will depend a little bit on Block 4 on where the geotech bloke says we can and cannot build.
Okay, all right, we're getting somewhere here. So what you're looking at doing here is what's known as an amalgamation. You're looking to amalgamate some land off the rear of lots 1, 2, and 3, and the 2 blocks that have road access onto Orana and whatever that other road where the arrow is there.
Eccleston Road, yep.
Okay, so you're looking at amalgamating 5 parcels of land, which is going to require development approval and essentially carving off the rear of those 3 lots, as you said, to amalgamate a site. And your site, you're saying, is approximately, did you say 2,000 square metres?
I should have around about 6, if I get everything I want, I'll have about 6,000 to 7,000 square metres of suitable building ground.
Okay.
It's all on a slope, but it's a very, very manageable slope.
How big will the site be once you amalgamate all the land?
The whole
not usable area, just what is the land area?
The usable area will be about 6 to 7,000.
Not the usable area. What is the land area?
The whole lot?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be about 12,000.
Okay. Well, and what I'm trying to do here, James, you're obviously a clever guy and you've done your research, which is fantastic. I'm just trying to make sure that we go through each step without missing anything. So anyone on this call will hear this and understand where we're going. So everyone gets the learning as we go through this. So what you're going to do is amalgamate 12,000 square metres of land. Now, this land has some challenges, is what you're telling me, which is not only does it have trees and bushland on it, but it has some slope, and that slope is known to be slippage, as you said, which is essentially unstable land on the slope, on the side of a hill.
That's correct.
Geotech, as you said, is a geotechnical engineer. A geotechnical engineer is an engineer that specialises in the geology, the surface of the ground, the different types of aggregate, the makeup of the rock, the makeup of the dirt. These are guys like hydraulic engineers or electrical engineers or telecommunication engineers. They're people who specialise in their field. And if it's known as slippage, the geotech will need to do some boreholes and some tests to work out, A, can that be fixed? Because you can fix slippage. There are ways, such as you dig it up until you hit a different layer of dirt deeper down. You can put in special geofabrics and matting that creates like a gripping area, and then you can compact good quality or certain types of fill on top. So there are ways to fix village area. You can also pin it with big rods that get jammed in by hydraulic rams. There's various techniques that can fix land that does slip. Often when land slips is when it's got like a clayish form sitting on top of a different kind of material. And when there's a lot of water that gets in between the 2 layers, it creates like a area where it just slips. And that's what a landslide is. Let's not go too much into the technicalities of a landslip. What we're talking about here is that of this site you are going to amalgamate, there are going to be some challenges. And the challenges are going to eat into the area of your land, and it's going to take about half of it away, I'm hearing. Because you're telling me you can have 6,000 to 7,000 metres of usable land. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, and you're going to need to chop some trees down by the looks of things to get access to the rear of lots 1, 2, and 3. Is that the high ground, the back of lots 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. High ground for everyone listening often means better building area. It's the reason it's higher is it hasn't been washed away before because it's generally more stable and rocky than the ground lower than it. What are the other challenges, James?
Well, the big challenge is all this geotech stuff, as you say, landslips, and clearing the block. The trees on it, a reasonable number of them, I feel, would have a saleable value, but it's still going to cost a bit to clear the block where it is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the geotech stuff is the big hurdle.
Okay.
What local council does, I have to get a report done and submit to them with the DA, and then they get an independent assessment of that report. They don't take that report at face value. They get an independent assessment, and from that they start putting all the conditions on what you have to do for the roadway and what you've got to do for your services come in, etc., etc.
Okay, so what you're saying is you're going to lodge for a development application,
Yep.
and then council doesn't review that application. They get an independent private sector review of that application. Is that right?
They review the geotech report.
Okay, so the engineering side of things are technicalities. Right now, I'm putting those aside. What I'm thinking about is you've got 6,000 or 7,000 meters of land. You want to build 10 to 12 townhouses on that section of land. So that's known as your concept. A development application is normally your concept. It's not your technical solutions to your engineering problems. In Queensland, we have a DA process, which is your concept design and approval. And then you have a operational works approval, which is your technical working drawings of your civil construction, your engineering, and that's how it all works. It's no different to an aeroplane or a yacht. You have a concept design usually sketched out on a pad first, potentially molded second, and make sure it looks good. And then they go into the technical drawings on how all the steel cables will run through the center to be able to make the ailerons move and various things like that. So right now we're talking about just the concept of what you're doing here. You're going to amalgamate a site. You want to build 10 to 12 townhouses on this. So you're going to come up with a proposed development plan and you're going to lodge that for DA. And what you'll get is council saying you've got some challenges here, such as this geotech, this slippage area. So we want a geotech report as part of your DA. And the reason council will say that is they're going to say, well, we don't want to waste our time dealing with this DA unless you show us that there is a potential solution to build on this area of land. So you do bring some engineering into the initial development concept. However, what I'm just trying to get to here, I'm trying to keep this very simple. What's your surveyor, council, or town planner's view on being able to build 10 to 12 townhouses? Is that the advice you've been given?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just looking at plans, yeah.
Okay, great. And the 10 to 12 townhouses you're looking to build on here, is there similar product in this area?
Yeah, very similar. There's new subdivisions going in just further up the road.
Okay.
The concept, yeah.
And have you had a look at those?
I've had drive past, yeah.
Okay. What might be, or tell me, what are townhouses selling for in those new suburbs, new estates?
Well, varies a bit. 400 to 600. There's quite a difference in the quality of builds. Some are really good builds and they sell for you 600 plus. Others aren't as good, but basic. So it varies. But a lot of that area is middle income sort of area where we're talking.
Okay. And have you walked through these properties?
No, I haven't, no.
No. Okay. It's just as important. It's actually more important to know your market than know your project. So the first little tip we can give you here is, and I'm not saying you haven't done this, so I'm only just speaking to you, but the first thing you want to know inside and out, intimately, better than any agent in the area, is what is the market. So for the product that you're intending to design as your concept, 10 to 12 townhouses, you want to know every townhouse in the area, what the quality of the build is, as you say, how big it is, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, garages. You want to walk through these. You want to meet the real estate agents. You want to know how much they've been on the market for, how much they sold for, and how long they took to sell. Because what you want to start with in this whole process is what can you do with this site and how much are you going to sell each unit for? And I'm guessing you've tried to enter that data into your feasibility. Is that, can we bring that up there, Sam? We'll just have a quick look at this and just make sure we get this piece of the puzzle dealt with first. So that'll come up in a moment. I guess we're looking, here it is here. Okay, so what have we got up the top here? 4, 3 and 2. So you've got 10 townhouses in this feasibility. Sorry, I read the quantities wrong. You've got 12 townhouses in this feasibility. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so you've got 3 4-bedrooms that are 160 square meters, and you're going to sell those for 550,000.
Yep.
And you very well may be right by this. I'm not saying you're wrong in any way whatsoever. Your gut could be correct. You might know your market really well. You got 6 3-bedroom, 150 square meter products at 450,000, and you got 3 2-bedrooms at 120 meters at $400,000. Where did you get those square meterages from? Is this something you got from a builder or from your?
No, just looking at compatibles around Launceston. They vary a hell of a lot, but the quality of the build varies a lot. But that's just what I thought.
Yeah, well, look, I think you're spot on. In Queensland, we build 3-bedroom townhouses up here with single garages, and often they're around the 150, 155 square metres. 4-bedders are usually a little bigger than 160, usually due to the fact that you need a staircase and they've got to be 2 stories. Are these single story or double story?
Singles.
Singles, okay. Well, your 160 is on the mark because a staircase is 14 metres. And your 2 bedrooms at 120 metres, that's actually not a bad size 2-bedroom property. 3-bedroom apartments are often smaller than that. So you came up the 120 metres for the 2-bedder as well?
Yep.
And you just got an eye for this? You're just looking around and noticing this, or where did you get, like you're saying?
Mainly looking at realestate.com and Domain a little bit, just to look at other compatibles around Launceston.
Okay, well, you are looking at your market then. You just didn't physically look there. It's still doing your research.
Yep.
So you're saying here that selling at these properties, you've got what's known as a gross income or net realisation of $5.545 million.
Yep.
You're going to pay the sales agents 2.5% to sell these properties, which is $87,000. Is that right? Or is that your GST? No, it's $138,000. So you got a net income of $5.31 million to sell 12 townhouses on this project.
Yep.
Okay. We won't go into too much detail on the feasibility now. We're sticking more to the process here. So your question, to ensure that we help you and answer your question, is you want to know how you can acquire this site using an option. Is that the main question that you're asking?
Not so much how can I acquire it using an option, but I want to be able to get an option and get all this work done, and then I want to be able to hand it over to a developer, and I don't want to have to pay all the stamp duty and all that sort of stuff on it, because we did go through that one of Roy's sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Well, the simple answer to that is you're just assigning or selling your option. You're selling the right to the property. So an option, in this case, likely a call option to acquire this 12,000 square metres of land at a price. And what is the price, James?
Well, I haven't discussed it with the other people, but we've agreed on the price of Lot 4 of 75,000.
Okay. And the other 3, what do you think is the right money in the market?
Well, very hard to tell because at the moment they're not much use to the owner, so they're not worth a lot. But I've budgeted on 85,000. My agent I've been talking to, he thinks probably around about the 60 mark, but I've done my calcs on 85.
Is that per lot or is that for the total amount of land?
That's for each lot.
Okay, so is 85 times 5? Is that
85 times 3? That's
okay.
for lot 1, 2, and 3. I've already got a price agreement on lot 4 of 75,000.
And what's the summation of the 5 lots then? How much are you paying for the 5?
Including lot 5, 430,000.
Okay, because this feasibility's got a $720,000 land purchase price in it. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, yep. But that land purchase price would be for a developer to buy it off me.
Okay, good. Okay, you're already creating the feasibility for the developer as the site.
But that feasibility there in front of you is, I put myself in the shoes of a developer to work out what my end price would be.
Okay.
I'm looking about 720,000, and there's other compatibles around Launceston of similar type of thing.
Sure. Okay. All right. So just so everyone understands, you're acquiring the total land area for 430,000. Your intention is to spend some money to improve the value of it and then sell the site for $720,000. And you're looking at picking up the money in the middle. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So this feasibility is a feasibility for the purchaser, not for you as the trader and developer in this situation. This is a feasibility that a developer would look at to buy the site, develop the site, which is build and construct the dwellings and sell them off to the local market. So what we need to concentrate on in this call is what is the difference between 720,000 and 430,000. Mathematically, it's 290,000. Though how much is it going to cost you to acquire, increase the value and on sell that option? Have you done some numbers on that?
Yeah, a bit of guesswork there though, but I'm saying 50 to 60.
Okay. And has your surveyor given you a bit of a budget on this, or is this something you've just guessed wholly and solely?
I've guessed a bit, and I'm in discussion with a real estate agent as well, a bit of a chap.
Okay. And the real estate agent, be careful of this one. A lot of real estate agents like to overstep their boundaries sometimes with their understanding of property, because they're property experts, as they like to believe, because they're selling the product every day. You do often find that they get themselves into situations where they're giving advice about something they don't understand. And it doesn't mean that every agent doesn't understand it. A lot of agents don't understand the total costs of development or total requirements. I guess if they really understood what you need to do to develop property and all the costs, often they would take a progression into trading and developing property rather than selling it for other people. It's not saying that there's a hierarchy or developers are above real estate agents or anything like that. It's just that they're different industries. They just work with the same product, which is property, but they are very different situations. So just be careful of getting too much advice from an agent unless they can qualify themselves as being experienced or that they got the information from professionals. So just with the surveyor and the agents, what did they say to you that you'll need to do to get your development approved other than your geotech report?
Well, I've talked to the council as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a couple of chats with the council, get on well. I happen to know one of the girls there in the department. My next stage is, just to go through back a little bit, my next stage, I've got a virtual agreement on block 4. My next stage is to go to the other 3 landowners, just put lot 5 aside for a minute, go to lots 1, 2 and 3 and get an option onto them. And then I will start going with my architect, and we're going to start working through plans, and he has a geotech expert he works with, and we're going to start moving in that track and start to get some more serious costings on all that as part of getting the DA ready to take to council. Yep. So it's still fairly early on in the process at this stage.
Yeah. Being early on the process is one thing, but you do also need to be thinking many steps ahead, and you obviously do that, James. You are steps ahead of where you're at right now, and that's where you need to be. Because before you start spending money, you want to know what your projections are, so you don't spend money into a point where it adds up as too much. You go, whoops, I just spent too much. Nothing I can do with this now, and then you end up giving the project away. An architect's job is not just to design a concept of a house. That's a draftsperson. An architect is a higher level of professionalism. They often know the processes, and they will get other consultants, engineers and professionals involved to not only design the concept of the dwelling or the dwellings or the project as such in this case, which would include driveways and visitor parking and potentially security gates, whatever it is. They also know how to go through the council application process and bring on the right people to turn this project into a turnkey application. So the architect has had a look at this site already, I would assume, has he?
We've had discussions. Well, he's seen as much as you've seen. We've had discussions, and he's looked at Google Map and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and but he's happy to do all this, help with the site plans and all that sort of stuff. As you're saying, he's a lot more than just a house designer.
Yeah. And what did council say?
Council, they say it has got possibilities, just got to work with this geotech stuff.
Okay. And did they say things to you like, you meet the density requirements to have 12 townhouses on this site, subject to you being able to prove that?
The zoning is suitable for a minimal size of 375 square metres. Yep.
Okay. As a strata complex.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And every state has different views of what strata is. Strata needs to be a torrens title, meaning a freehold title. However, they have different definitions of the term in different states. So when you say strata and you say 1 per 350, are these townhouses going to be combined common walls between each one, or are they going to be freestanding dwellings?
No, they'd be freestanding. My understanding of it all is, and talking to the Savara as well, just say each one has a block of 375 square metres. There's going to be some left over which would be common ground, such as your roads and all that sort of thing, which is where your corporate body situation comes in.
Yeah, okay. So in New South Wales, as an example, they would call that a community title. So what you end up getting is a small block in a community, and the community all owns a portion of the extra lot, which owns the common property. So for example, you might have 13 lots, which is 12 houses on their own little blocks of land that are all serviced by an access road with services under the road, such as electricity, telecommunications, water, sewer, stormwater, etc. Could be gas and recycled water, all the various things that potentially may be in this area. And all of the owners of the 12 units would have an ownership in that 13th lot that would own all the common property. So this is like a little community that you're designing. When you call them townhouses, the terminology that I like to use for freestanding dwellings is villa. Villa is a word that people generally expect is a freestanding dwelling. And it's like a little house, but it's not a house. When you say house, people think a traditional house block. And that is just my terminology. It's not mine. It's the one that I like to use because it seems to be understood the clearest in the market through my experience. Townhouses to me are generally 2 stories. They usually have common walls and they're lined up in a big long row. Whereas apartments are stacked on top of each other. You see where I'm going with this?
Yep, can do.
So it's not that these things are important, because it's when you're projecting out a vision of the project, you want, and your market, it might very well be called townhouses. If being in Tasmania, that's might be what people generally call a townhouse down there. A bit like America, where they call apartments condominiums. We all have different terms.
Yeah.
But these are really houses. And the good thing about these is, by not having the common wall, by having their own lot of land, it means you can sell the lots off without having to construct the dwellings. So what you would need to do, and you may or may not have got advice on this yet, is you would likely need to build the common area lot, as in you need to construct it. So you would need to build the road in, you would need to build the sewer line and all the different services, and you would need to give access to each block to those services, such as you might put a water meter on each block and a connection to the main water line. And you might put a sewer stub on each block, which connects into the main sewer line, and various items like that. So you build all the infrastructure, just like when you do a new suburb or land subdivision, you put all the infrastructure in so that when somebody comes along and buys a block of land, they can build a house on it and tap straight into the services. And the reason why this is an advantage than townhouses is the developer who would develop this site wouldn't need to build 12 houses. They would just need to build the infrastructure. Now that saves you quite a substantial amount of capital, time, risk, and it's just often a less complex project than having to build the end product of the dwellings as well. So the long and the short of it is, this is really a land subdivision. Am I on the right track here?
Yeah, you are. And it depends where I decide to hop off the bus, so to speak, whether I just want to pass the lot on to somebody else or whether I want to go to that next stage you've just described.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get to here is, what are we doing? And I think we just got to it. We're amalgamating a site where uplifting its value through a development approval is the intention.
That's right.
To do a 12-lot strata community title subdivision, which is a land subdivision, but you want to get off the bus before actually developing it. You just want to get the approvals in place and pass it to a developer.
That's correct, yeah.
So a developer who purchases this property off you for $720,000 is going to look at a couple of things. They're going to look at the approvals. They're going to look at this feasibility that you've done, and they'll probably make their own mind up on their own feasibility. But what they're going to really do is they're going to break that $720,000. They're going to divide it by 12 and say, okay, I'm paying $60,000 a lot. And $60,000 a lot is how a developer will often look at a site to begin with. $60,000 a lot is, looking at those prices you've just said to me, it's not too much money, but it just depends on what the civil costs are going to be. How is the market down there? Just a very brief description. Is it like an affluent area, or is it a...
Yeah, it's pretty positive at the moment. Well, most of Tassie's pretty positive. Hobart's best, but Launceston just rolling on quite nicely because there's a big shortage of houses down here.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to the stage now our agents are ringing up asking for, you know, if you'll sell your house sort of thing, which is very unusual for Launceston.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all positive at the moment.
There's a term known as the ripple effect, and in Australia, not that history is any guarantee of the future, but Tasmania has often got the ripple effect of Sydney and Melbourne quite delayed. It seems to take a while to cross that ocean and get to you guys, and it's often one of the last markets to run in a cyclical pattern in this country. And but like all markets, like all real estate markets, it has its runs. We're not here to predict or project the market, but I'm just looking at the end product value. I'm just comparing this to Queensland, where we trade, and for a 4-bedroom house of 160 square meters, we can't get close to 550,000 in the majority areas that we're trading in. We often sell 4-bedroom houses between $450,000 and $500,000, which is really affordable, I believe, and that's within 30 minutes of the CBD of Brisbane. So it must be a fairly nice little area, and 60,000 a lot, subject to your civil costs not being too high, is a reasonable kind of per lot sale price that you would even expect to pay around these areas. So I was just doing a bit of a comparison there. We're not trying to work out necessarily, is this project certainly going to be profitable for a developer and therefore proceed with it. What we're going through here is the process. It is important that we got to an understanding that this is an end product of community title. That's what the buyer who purchased each house is going to be buying. The developer is buying a land subdivision project because he's going to subdivide the land. You're going to get the approval, but he's going to go ahead and build all the infrastructure and do the development and sell off the blocks of land, whereas you're really just getting in and you're the site amalgamation person and you're the site uplift person. So you're amalgamating the site and adding value through a development approval.
That's correct, yep.
Yeah, and that when you break it all down, as we've just gone through that long process, it often comes back to key pieces of the puzzle. And it always comes back to, first of all, site amalgamation, then it goes to value uplift, then it goes to development and marketing and sales, which is the end result of the development, and it ends up in the end user. So you're taking two pieces of the puzzle here. Sometimes people just amalgamate sites and then they'll on-sell them for someone else to do a DA. So you are doing two pieces of the process. Yep. That's often something that real estate agents will try and do. They'll try and get a couple of old houses and convince the sellers to all list their house together in one line and say, your house is potentially worth more money as a piece of this development site than it is as a house on its own. So they convince people, well, let's all get you listed on the market and see if we can get some offers off developers to come along and acquire this site. So, Roy, I'm guessing you're going to want to jump in here in a minute. Do you want to talk about the process of acquiring this land under an option, or do you even want to talk about the fact that you knock on the front door of these people? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I would like to add a few things here. Firstly, I just want to acknowledge UK just the great observations you've done there. You've really nailed this. You've looked at, I hope everyone's watching and listening and seeing just how he went through that process. You know, it just shows his experience, his knowledge, and I guess for you, James, it gives you a little bit of a clarity here moving forward, because I think that's what you were searching for. You're an experienced person yourself, and has this been valuable so far for you?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now, I'd like to make a couple of comments. Firstly, these are the transactions we try and get people not to give us, mainly because we want them to flick a few houses and do that. Everyone always brings one of these along, and the main reason is that they're complex matters. There's a lot of things that you're not sure of, even not counting the slippery slope and all the rest, which can be engineeringly covered, just that there's a lot of money involved. And, you know, these, if you like, problems or opportunities in disguise. I've got a couple of questions, though, looking at this. And I'd like to frame it this way, that what Kate's talked about and the way he's broken it down with the community title to strata title, that's a very important issue. What he's really talked about is, you know, giving certainty to a builder. Because most builders want certainty, and that's where you're getting the uplift that he refers to, because it's part of the 6 human needs: certainty, variety, significance, love and connection, growth and contribution. But certainty is number one. So when you take away, well, can we do something? What's happening? Once you solve all these problems, you add value to the property, because builders just want to get in and build something. So your main client here is someone who wants to build. Now, that certainty can go in different stages. You can get a DA through, and that's a certain amount of certainty. You can do what Cade's saying, which is put the infrastructure in, which is putting more money in for the roadworks and things like that, creating more certainty so they can drive up and see it. And then each stage you go, you're adding value, but you're also risking more, and you're taking more time, and you're getting further in. So obviously the big deal here is you get this under option, flip it as an option, and you pick yourself up, you know, a couple of $100,000. It's a good day's work, isn't it? And that was one of your questions. What is the deal, or how do you put that option together? That's a very important document that Cade is very experienced in, and we've done many of them, where you take possession of a property, control of a property without full possession, but you have the right to on-sell that and just pick up the money without the stamp duty, without anything. And that's a very important document. However, to make value out of that, it's no good just having an idea. It's to get that DA through. And you've got a few steps to go to. First, you've got to acquire the other options before you deal with it, and you've got to have enough time for the option. The question I was going to ask you, Kate, and perhaps even James, Section 494, Section 94 contributions, there's no comment in that box. Now, in New South Wales,
We don't have them here, Ray.
zero. So that was the question. In your state, you don't make any contribution to the council.
Not apart from your normal DA costs and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, no.
I think, Kate, we should all move down to Tasmania based on that alone.
I told you that years ago, Roy.
Well, it's. I think they're going to bring them in. By the way, I think they'll wake up. Every other state in the country does it, and the figures could be as much as $20,000, $27,000, $30,000. So they give you one lot, and then they want, 11 lots, 10 lots. Just make it 20, a 200,000 contribution. So that can really take a lot of your profit. But if you're saying we don't have that, and like New Zealand, no capital gains tax, fantastic. Different countries, different things. Different states, different things. So that's cool. And I do remember you telling me about it. The next thing I would just ask you to think about is, I notice, and look, I'm just an observer, but I notice there's a little bridge where you drive down that street when Sam did that fantastic job and took us on a journey. And bridges have certain weight to them, and they're usually loaded, with a certain maximum weight. And when you've got concrete trucks coming and things like that, just a minor thing, but I just check what the weight is, because that could be a big cost. They may want you to upgrade the bridge.
Yeah, I would imagine it's more than capable, because there's probably about a dozen houses further up.
Yeah, depends what they're built of. When I look at the houses, and just a quick, every time the world moves on, more compliance comes in.
Yeah, but that's a good point. I'll check up on that.
Yep. And obviously you've checked the power, sewerage, NBN, sorry, the telco, and we've talked about the bridge. So there's some things to look at. But I think it's got some great potential, and there's just some steps to finalise. And I also love the way Kate always begins with the end in mind. You know, what are you going to? He's famous. Da Vinci is. You know, what are you going to sell it for? You know what we buy it for. What's the cost in the middle? You know, and look at our profit. So it's pretty cool. Under our fee zone, because the reverse fee zone, it says that the real builder should be buying this off you for 513,000, which is an indicator there for him to make his 20. But the builder, if it was sold properly to the builder, he's making his profit on his construction. And I note there that you've got houses that are, or construction costs 170 a square metre, 1,700 square metre, 1,900 square metre, 1,900 square metre, which is top of the line kind of cost as far as even New South Wales is concerned. However, and you have put in a lot of infrastructure costs, you know, for the roads and things, but I suspect you put yourself a good margin there, but you may need more margin on this other cost, but that's going to be something that I'm sure they'll come up with. One question, you've got 12 lots, yet you've only got 11 dwellings for landscape, 11 serviced easements. And, you know, so is there originally got 11? Is there already a service easement there for the other one?
I'll put that down to a typo, Roy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the typo can cost you a little bit of money there because that mathematics works on the side across because you got 5,500 for each one and 4, so there's about 10 grand just in that typo. That if it was 12. Anyway, you look at that. I'm sure that we're only talking small amounts of money, but they all add up.
Yep.
So you've also got some minus rent in this fee zone. Obviously, that's the deal that you're showing them. I would do it a different way myself. I'd take on Cade's deal. I think that's Sam just showing everyone. He's just making the adjustments for you. Say you're up a bit there on those costs. He's just putting them in. And it's made a bit of a difference. It's dropped you by 1%, and you've moved from, 674,000 down to 660,000 for the builder. But they're the things they pick up. If they find something wrong, they start questioning the whole thing. We want them not to find anything wrong.
I mean, this FISO here, I wouldn't actually give that to a builder, to a developer. I was using that to try and get an idea of the end cost.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. We do have in our system, and you get that free for doing a Life Magic program, but we have a system in there called the Builder's version. And it's got a tweaker in it. I'll show it to you later if you like. But
Okay.
It's for builders to hand it over to a builder. It's designed specifically for that purpose. I like the idea. If I got this under, I like to maximize my profit when I can, but I'm still using there it is. Sam's put it up for you, but there's the tweaker. Can you see that on the screen?
Yep.
And it's got a way of tweaking all the numbers to make it even better for him. You put, a more of a builder's cost, so he gets a better margin on his outcome because he can build them cheaper than what you said. So you can put it in. It's just a more advanced piece of feasibility which we had developed over the years. So builds his upgrade quite considerably, 34% from 15, which is pretty big. I like the idea of really looking at that infrastructure work and stuff like that, and I would actually sell them individually. And I reckon, and I tell you why I do it. I'd be willing to take on shortest time, maximum profit, least risk, minimum cash. I'd be taking on a little bit more time and making a lot more profit. I think we're actually going to minimise the risk. And the reason I would do it, because to find a buyer who can pay or will spend 720,000 and spend 4.6 million, what they're going to spend, is a different buyer to a buyer who can come on board and spend as a land and house package for 500. You know,
12 small lots. Yeah. Yep.
That would enter that contract, and you would make more money.
Mm. Yep. Well, as I said in my email to you, Roy, my thoughts were, number one, do the development stage, and as I work through there, I'll also get an more accurate idea of costings and how far I do actually want to go in the long run, because I might want to go to that next stage.
Yeah. And look, you were right on, and Kate's right on. You never go broke taking a profit, you know, and there's always another transaction. But looking what Sam showed us there on those pictures, it's a lovely place. You're right near IGA, you're right near a number of little shopping things there. It's kind of cute little place. And, you know, I don't know the area that well. How far are you away from the main town of Launceston?
It took me about 8 minutes to get there from the middle of Launceston.
By car?
Yep.
Wow. Man, I think, Kate, you know, I always used to say we go to Tasmania to die. James, you know that. That was my favourite.
You come down here to live, Roy.
Well, I think as long as I don't get in that plane with you, Kate would get in the plane. He'd get in there. He'd want to fly it.
Yeah.
And he's under a 10 million insurance policy with us, wouldn't allow him to get in there.
Right. That's no good.
He's very valuable.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope that's been valuable. Thank you so much. Oh, there we go. Sam's already done it for us. There's Launceston. There's your little house. Wow. And you've got a lovely little scenic drive by the river.
Yep. No, very pleasant drive.
Yeah. And just like a good 8, you said 8 minutes, but the Google's saying 11. But there you go.
Oh, well, I must drive faster than Google.
Yeah, I think you do. And plus, you've got to do the corner and come up into the roadway.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure talking to you, James, and keep us informed on this one. We'd love to see it come out at the end. It'd be great. It's good,
Yep.
looks like a good transaction. Anything else you want to add, Kate, to this one?
Yeah, there is, Roy. This isn't specific for you, James. This is an overall statement, but it doesn't matter how much research you do, how many checks, and how well you get your feasibility correct with your costs and all the challenges and all the planning and engineering you're going to need to go through. There's one thing that if you get wrong, the whole thing will be out of whack, and that's the market. So you might be spot on, you might be under, you might be over, but really understanding the market is just critical. And that is always the number one tip that we say to people. Understand that market inside out intimately, better than any agent, for the product that it is that you're selling, who you're selling it to, and what price that it will sell for. And it's just as important as all the rest of the work that you're going to do combined. So, yeah, if I can just leave that for everyone to remember, that's my little tip, Roy.
Yep. Value that.
Good work. Thanks, James. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you too. Thank you very much, Kate, as well.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And thanks, Kate, for that statement. I think it's probably my best thing tonight. There's a lot of best things, but I'd say that's one of my best things. So as we finish off, there's a lot of comments here too about best things on various things. So whack a few more on, and thank you everyone for coming on. While you're getting that ready, I just want to let everyone know our next quantum mentoring is on the 15th of November and the 27th of November, and we have a ignition program here at Varsity on the 22nd of November for helping people build their dream teams. It's a Thursday night, and then on an ICANN, we just did one, but our next it's for grads on goals, and it's on Friday the 23rd of November. We just did money. If you weren't, well, that was recorded now. It was done live and was sent out, so it's being edited now. So it's a good one. I have to say myself because I did it. And then Life Magic, we're very excited. We've got Life Magic on 1st of November through the 5th of November. And our next level program, which is a must for you to get ready for 2019, 2021, is Friday the 30th of November through to the 5th of December. So it's our last program for the year. 7 weeks before we close down in our business. So it's going to happen pretty quick. And 7 weeks for this year, whatever happened to 2018, and we embrace 2019. Now, I'm going to ask Jackie best things that she heard tonight. And we've already got Penelope on there. Best thing, Kate and James's discussion. I have to agree, Pen, that's fantastic. Yep, that's cool. There's a couple other people that Kate coming in. Very good. Jackie, what was the best thing for you?
For me, the best thing is knowing that I'm surrounded by people who have a really good handle on how to approach different projects and to look at it from a really holistic point of view, not just in real estate, but in business transactions as well.
Yeah, it is reassuring, isn't it? Because how many things they can give to Cade that he hasn't seen? Your best thing, Mr. Cade?
I would say the fact that James had done so much research on this property before he brought it to this call. He'd obviously gone and spoken to the people that you should speak to, council, real estate agents, and the surveyor, who seem to be acting as a town planner, and often they do. And then not only that, but he went and did some further research. He would have been given some indications from this, and that was a sophisticated conversation because there was sophisticated preparation. So that's my best thing.
Good work, good work. I already said you're my best thing, Cade, and I thought the wisdom that you showed in that was just fantastic. So thanks everybody. Thanks Sam for supporting us here. Thanks Cade for coming on, and Jackie for being in here. And we'll see you all on the next call. Take care, and namaste to you all. Well done. Thanks Cade.